All right, we're back from Canada. Got some work to do in the shop here, finishing up some projects and whatnot. The big thing I'm doing today, not even a big thing, but just something I'm doing today is getting these KYBs off the front of the 650. Since I had these shortened, they don't really have enough stroke for big bump events. The shocks off of the 650 went on the Assault for the Canada trip, as you saw, and those worked really well up there. So now I got to go back to a Walker Evans. I need to get another set of 2 inches. I'm not really sure if I'm going to run the standard ones. I've reached out to Andy, and he's looking up some information on the cross-country shock and the 600R shock that have a traditional mounted reservoir. So we're toying with the idea of that, but those work so good, I'm kind of tempted to not go away from that now that I know that really works. But either way, these KYBs are coming off, the slugs are coming out of them, and then I'm gonna try and sell those. So if anyone out there is interested in a set of fancy KYBs for a stock spindle, stock geometry matrix sled, they'll pick your front end up about 1.5 inches. They'll get some, weight off of the front track shock, get you some stroke back into that. That all works really well with the stock spindle. It makes the sled a little bit more dynamic. You do have to do some stuff for roll stiffness in terms of fighting tipping and things like that, but I can assist with that if somebody buys these things off of me. But anyway, for the time being, since we have some rides coming up, I'm going ahead and taking the stock 650 shocks, the regular 1.75 inch ones. I've got some 100-pound springs left over from Tyler's sled from last year. Throwing those things on for now to get by until I get out of this shock pickle I have put myself in.
And then he's going to stick me on it to try it, and we'll see what happens.
If you notice the stuff over here on the bench, my water bottle opened up in my bag over the weekend and it got everything soaked, so it's all over here drying out. Weird. All right, I'm gonna set the preload on these things. Generally, I think I've mentioned this several times in other videos. Let me grab this. I generally don't like running a lot of spring preload. I feel like you should spring appropriately for your weight and, maybe have 5 turns of preload in it, which generally equates to like 3/8 of an inch, somewhere around that range. A ton of preload does some goofy stuff, kind of gets you to the point where as soon as you start to put weight onto that spring, it doesn't have any extra set in on it because it's already holding up a ton of weight and it's already got a lot of resistance there, which then usually translates to a lot of tipping. So you can sometimes band-aid stuff with preload, and that's not the way to do it. But again, there's always different ways to do things, and depending on what you're looking for in your application, a lot of preload may be the solution for you. But for the average trail person, I tend to not run a lot of preload. So with these the way they are, the spring length and everything, pretty much the collar's bottomed out is our starting point. It's pretty good, there's a little bit of tension there, whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and mark one of these flats here. I'm just gonna put, there's 1, 2, 4, and 5, which is pretty much bang on the money 3/8. So depending on your thread pitch, you're usually around that mark with 5 turns. I'm gonna start them there because this thing, 650, right, does have quite a bit of ski pressure on it because that spindle is so... Jasper's got guard dog getting after it. But yeah, we're gonna start there, 3/8 of preload. That's the same thing I have on the dual rates, which is slightly different, but it's similar 105-pound initial rate on the duals. So rough starting point that I usually go with is 5 turns and adjust from there. And then this lock collar, I'm not going to lock incredibly tight in case we need to make adjustments. That way on the trail, I can just grab a screwdriver, kind of do that same thing, tap it off. See, it's pretty good, it's not gonna go anywhere. So if you've got to reuse a ball joint like that, I mean, this one's in pretty good shape still, even though it took a little bit of a hit and whatever, right? The best thing to do is just get your MAP gas or even like a heat gun, hair dryer type thing, and warm up the control arm so that this metal expands a little bit and that joint comes out of there. You can even see this one's got like 2,500-ish miles on it, and you can see how it's kind of starting to get a little bit corroded in there. A little, not too bad, right? Some of the other like maintenance videos, if some of you have been following the channel for a while, you've seen some that are really stuck in there and pretty gnarly. This one's not too bad, but still a little bit of heat goes a long way because there isn't really a good way to get in there and press on the race. When you're heating these up to get them out and warming up the arm, you gotta be really careful not to get this actual joint too hot, because in here is just a Teflon insert and you can burn that out of it and then your ball joint's no good. So ideally, I should have ordered a new ball joint and then just blasted this one out, not really worried about it. But again, mid-season like this, everything's a time crunch. If you gotta reuse one, a little bit of heat goes a long way in terms of getting these things to slide out of here. I'm gonna go ahead, take my Scotch-Brite, clean this up, thin layer of grease, slap it in the new arm, onto the sled we go. Get my supervisor over here. There you go. There you go, huh? Pretty beat up, isn't it? Good enough? You can't eat that, dude. You think it's good enough? We put it in? Yeah? Okay, let's do it. All right, excuse me, sir. Go. I'm gonna go ahead and do both of these. Let's reposition this way back here. Ah! There it goes. Square this up just a, oh my lord! Leg freaking not hit. There we go. Excuse you, sir? Get in your chair. All right, shock's tight, ball joint, play bar. Beauty, huh? Couple big boxes here. This one is the new orange hood to replace the mangled up one over there, but I like the black hood on that thing. I think it looks really good. I'm gonna leave the black hood for a while, and then if I ever go to sell it, I'll return the sled completely to stock so that everyone or anyone buying it gets, you know, a stock baseline to do whatever they want with it from there. The other box is the brand new pipe that hasn't been fixed or dented or anything like that. There's not really any big bends or anything in this pipe, and we fixed it as best we could, but whatever happened with the incident, this thing's running like 300 RPM more, so I'm leaving everything as it is and just gonna continue to run it that way. And then, like I said, if I ever go to sell it, all that stuff will go onto it and it'll be 100% stock from there. So these big boxes are going in storage for a while, and we're gonna run it like this. The 650 is all set up now with its stock 1.75-inch body shocks on there, 100-pound springs, stock valving, stock nitrogen, wherever that may be, who knows. We got a couple small things left to do on the 650 before that thing's all ready for the weekend. Main thing is swapping the bumper over. I gotta take these little hood latch things off, drill the rivets out, rivet those into the new bumper, and then I have a tie rod boot to go ahead and swap onto it because the one is all torn to hell. Wasn't for me, it was like that when I got it, but hasn't iced up or anything yet, but I figure when I'm down there doing control arms and stuff, which I already did, so it doesn't really make much sense, but I figured I might as well throw one in it. This is a little bit annoying. They're steel rivets into, obviously, the blind bumper. So once they start spinning, you've got no way to hold them. Basically, just gotta take the cutoff wheel and grind most of the head down until you can get a pry tool or screwdriver or whatever in there and pop the rest of the head off, and then pull your pull the plastic bracket off from there. One down, one to go. 650's got a bumper on it again. It's pretty much ready to go except for that tie rod boot. I did not get to that tonight. I'm gonna take the rest of the night, go get a workout in, do some editing, just kind of relax and take a little break because the rest of this week is kind of really busy and hectic. So I'm gonna go try to enjoy some downtime tonight and then, yeah, get back to the schedule or lack thereof from here on out. Tie rod boot time. Oh God, I forgot the back was on the wheels. Hello, Gordon. Stop it. What are you gonna do with this? Yeah, that's right. Back it up. Whoa. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. This one's always a pain. That. Myself balanced here. Last thing I want to do here is go ahead and yank the plugs out of the Assault, since it did have a bunch of DET on that last leg back in Canada when I filled up entirely with whatever 91 was in that tank. Just want to go ahead and yank those plugs out quick and make sure that the knock sensor and ECU is doing its job and kind of shutting things down way ahead of time. Make sure there's no goofy readings on the plugs. If everything looks good, throw those back in. They were brand new before that ride. So I'll throw them back in, and then these two are ready to go in the trailer. So what I'm really kind of looking for is essentially any sort of detonation marks or like pitting or speckles, you know, just goofy abnormal deposits on the plug. And this all looks pretty good. Obviously it has a lot of, not necessarily raw fuel, but it's very wet from just idle time and things like that. All in all, not too bad. I'm gonna get a rag and wipe this off so we can read the threads and see how our temp range is. So this is the mag side plug. All in all, not bad. We're down pretty much 3 threads on the nose for our heat here. Hey, Gordon. What'd you think, Gord? You can't have the plug. You can read it. You wanna read the plug? What do you think? Think it's good? Whoa. Huh. Good and bad. Bad, we've had a plug failure. The insulator tip has broken or separated. Good, because even with that broken part, it's still pretty clean in here. So me putting it in the rich fuel mode and driving it easy kind of helped things here. I'm surprised this was still firing at all. It didn't even idle rough or miss or anything. It just wouldn't. As soon as it would get into boost, it'd blow the spark out. I can kind of see why now. The whole electrode is shrouded. It could have very well actually had a real detonation event that maybe broke the plug if it was a hard enough shock. Anything's possible. I've said this many times. It's motorsports. Things happen. Goofy stuff breaks. I kind of wish this had like started running really rough at idle, so I would have just swapped plugs on the trail and found it and been able to ride back in full power. But it is what it is, really. I mean, that's cool. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the other one back out and put 2 new fresh ones in. And I do run the BR9 EYAs in both my sleds. I've been running this plug for quite a while now. I've never seen any adverse effects. This is the first time I've ever seen an insulator tip break. Cool.
I've seen that back in the day. Junior would say on the FE3 Oldsmobile.
Oh, Jesus.
Suspension version. We used to have spark plug problems.
Even though these plugs were brand new before this ride, things do happen. And like I said, it could have been one real, pretty gnarly actual detonation event that caused that insulator to break. Kind of unlikely, probably more just like a manufacturing defect or something. Or like you guys saw, this thing was turning pretty crazy RPM. So it could have been any number of things where it didn't like the RPM and vibration and an actual DET. Who knows, right? But either way, I'm back here, and instead of just assuming it was the fuel, taking 15 minutes here to pull this thing apart, yank the plugs out, give them a check over to make sure nothing major did happen during those DET events, and lo and behold, we found that broken plug. Going ahead, new plugs, off we go again. has been looking for this jacket for like 2 weeks. And I was like, you couldn't have lost it. We've called everyone that it might have been in their truck or their gear bag or whatever. And I'm like, let's see what else is in the cabinet here to see if one of my old ones will fit. It was sitting right here. It's been there for how long? How many rides have you ridden with jackets that are too small now? Because you allegedly lost that.
2. Pat had probably had it in this truck. But lo and behold,
Yeah, he snuck in here and put it back. Yeah.
This stuff right here, all these bright colors, everybody knows me that that's not my stuff.
This is not true.
So somebody had my coat tucked all in the middle of their stuff.
It's like if you're
That's
looking.
why I couldn't find it.
It's like if you're looking for ketchup, you got to move the gallon of milk in the fridge sometimes to find stuff. It was in the cabinet with all the other gear.